do it. I'm ready. This is episode 306. That's right, 306, No Laugh Track podcast. This guy's been here before, once or twice, or a dozen maybe now. Tim Slagle's here with me at
I would
Acme.
have had to have been. If it's 306, that's almost 6 years.
Yeah.
So that would so in 6 years, it probably will be about a dozen times.
I think it is. That's the official, unofficial number. I think I counted a few months ago. Yeah. I think this is 12.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Here we are.
Some podcasts don't last 12 episodes, and here I've been on yours 12 times.
No shit. That is very true. We have a lot of podcast stuff to talk about. Well, we're going to get to that. I'm going to tease a little here, like you do such a good job on your podcast.
Oh.
We're going to tease that. We're going to talk about that stuff later.
Wow. I found another one of the 24 listeners.
Present. Present. Or as in my French class in high school, ici. I think that meant here. It's one of the few things I remember. I'm here. Well, thank you for coming here this afternoon.
Always fun.
Doing this. You were saying you were, before this, you said you were going for a little walk or something downtown?
Yeah, I just went downtown because I need exercise.
Sure. Anything interesting you see downtown Minneapolis on a Thursday afternoon?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was, and I was probably panting too hard anyway and fogged up my glasses, so I couldn't see anything if I wanted to.
Sure. And you're not a smoker, so you didn't get hit up for a cigarette every 6 feet, because that's what happens downtown.
Really?
Yeah.
Do I look like a smoker? I don't know.
No.
I don't look like a smoker anymore.
Uh-uh. Do you think you do?
I don't know. I used to be one.
No, I know that. I mean, I've heard you mention that.
I shouldn't say that because I lie every time I go to the doctor.
What do you mean?
Well, they say, do you smoke? And it's like, no. And it's, have you ever? No.
Oh, yeah. Sure. At this point, they're not going to, I mean, how are they going to figure it out, right?
Yeah, 21 years. So that's, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, doctor. I've almost been not smoking as long as you've been alive.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Here we are. It is just about the end of the summer here. Which I'm trying not to.
I hate that.
I'm trying not to be depressed about it, but I can't ignore it because I have kids, and I know that they're going back to school in a week and a half, and the state fair starts today.
Yep, those are the big signs of the end of summer. Is football preseason.
Yeah,
crayon sales.
I saw a box for 50 cents at Walgreens this week. 50 cents.
How many colors for 50 cents?
Not 20, maybe.
Okay,
It's one of the smaller ones.
Were those actual Crayolas?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was one of the smaller boxes. It did catch my eye, though.
Do kids even color anymore? You would know. I wouldn't.
You know what? In my house, actually, well, nobody's really doing it. I would say, you remember the adult coloring book craze that hit a few years ago?
Yeah, for a moment.
For a moment. That hit my house pretty big. So we have a large collection of colored pencils and some markers and not very many crayons. And now no one's touching them. So, yeah, that's passed. That passed pretty quickly. Yeah.
So it's crayons. Crayons went out when kids got the pads, I guess.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Oh. Well, there's an app, actually. There's a coloring app where have you ever seen that, Tim?
I imagine there is.
Yeah, I think it's called Coloring App. I don't know. But it's literally like if you're looking at your screen, let's say it was a picture we were going to color of the outside of Acme. But all the bricks would be, you could just tap on them and then change the color. Tap, tap, tap. So you're just tapping the color. That's what kids do now. You tap the color into your thing.
Oh man, you don't even do the back and forth.
No, you're not your hands don't get dirty. You don't get sore.
Oh,
no,
man.
It's not the same as it used to be. So it is that time of year. One of the first things I wanted to ask you about here is...
flu shots. That's the other thing. That's the other thing. The flu shots are in. So that's the other sign of summer.
Speaking of Walgreens.
Yep. I'm sorry. You interrupted me.
No.
I interrupted you, I mean.
Oh, no, but you're right. You're absolutely right about that. I was going to say it's back to school and summer jobs, kids wrapping up summer jobs. Did you ever... I'm curious about you and summer jobs. I don't know if that's something I've ever asked you about. In school, did you have summer jobs? What age?
I cut lawns.
Yeah,
I cut some lawns. What else did I do in the summer? I didn't. When I got closer to college age, I worked for the city a couple summers.
Working for the city.
Yeah. Worked a trash truck for a while. That's a nasty job, especially in the summer.
Oh God. I just walked past the we're like a couple downtown here, where a couple buildings all had their dumpsters on one side of the building the other day when it was 95 degrees. You could almost drop dead from that smell.
Yeah. Now though, gosh, it's so easy. I mean, it's you know when I did it, you had to actually pick up the can and haul it over and it was the one man dumpster. It was the one man trash truck. That was the most modern invention that you could actually. It had a right hand drive. And and then it had like a bin right in the middle, so you could pull up to the can and then hoist it over and throw it in the middle. And you could operate it with, it wasn't the where you had the guy driving in front and the two guys in back doing either side of the street. So this was the one man trash truck with
the beginning,
big innovation. Now they have forklifts.
Yeah.
Now that you don't even have to. You just grabs it, picks it up, dumps it, and then you go to the next one.
And then the recycling guy that comes past my house shows up at 6:15 in the morning with that big thing, and then it picks it up and smashes all the glass onto itself and wakes up everyone in the neighborhood. That's a lot of fun.
So you put the glass and the plastic and the everything. It all goes into one bin.
That's what we have in my neighborhood. The single sort, I believe it's called.
Oh,
yeah. I've also been doing a little, I wouldn't say research, but if I see a headline about recycling, it really does catch my eye because of the arguments, like it's completely wasteful, and you're not really doing anything by recycling. The whole argument, it costs more to recycle this crap, uses more power to recycle it than it does to just toss it. And I learned a phrase called wish cycling. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Wish cycling. It has to do with this single sort like they do in my neighborhood, where people aren't really educated on what is supposed to be recycled, what can and cannot be, so they just throw everything. But then it gets to the sorting center, and those people are like, I can't fucking get through all this stuff either, so it just gets tossed anyway. So you're not doing it. Your conscience might be clear for that one moment when you're throwing the dirty pizza box, but because it's a dirty pizza box, or it is the waxy cup film or whatever on it, they can't recycle it, and you just wasted their time and energy and money. Yeah.
I've been saying for at least 20 years that recycling's closer to a religious ritual than an actual efficient use of resources.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, it truly is. It's when I wash my garbage and put it away gently, it's somehow I think I'm going to help the earth. I'm doing something kind for the earth. But then I stick it in a separate bin, and it all ends up in the same place.
I remember how strict they were at a friend's house when I was growing up, that as I'm holding my can of soda here, if you finished a can of pop over there, you would have to rinse it out. Like that was you couldn't put it in their bag for recycle until you'd put it under the water, rinse the whole can out.
That's just too Ukrainian for my liking.
Right?
That's like what they do in Eastern Europe, where you get a set of jars on your wedding day, and every couple of weeks you rinse them out and take them back to the market to get them filled up with mayonnaise and roe.
I like that. Yeah, so it's. But then again, like my kids don't have to go through that whole thing that they have had to find other ways to come up with a few extra bucks, because I did that in the summer. You go through the park, and I remember pulling cans out of garbages at the park when I was a little kid. The neighbor and his parents or his dad would take us out.
Do you have the deposit on the cans here, or is it
not anymore?
Okay.
But back then you could make decent money, like in the early 80s.
With cans?
Yeah.
They got rid of the deposit?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Huh. Iowa, I think, is the closest that has a deposit. It's not here anymore. Yeah. No, I don't.
Because Michigan had it. I voted for it. I was actually living in Michigan when it was on the ballot, and I voted for it. I said, yes, that's a good thing.
Because?
Because I was a kid.
Oh.
I didn't know any better. And then it was 10 cents. It was actually worth something. It's
right.
It's back then. You could actually save all your empties, and then when you were out of beer, you could just grab up all the empties. You could actually buy beer with the money that you got from the empty. But now it's like
10 and the
cents
glass
a can.
too.
It's nothing.
The glass you could return for some decent money.
Well, that was different too. They had those thick bottles that they could wash out and reuse.
Yes,
it wasn't.
We used to use those for furniture in college. Those boxes with the heavy glass returnables.
Oh,
they were so sturdy, you could use them as chairs and stools and whatnot.
Huh.
We would use them as furniture.
Huh.
Yeah. Not because we had so much money, like, oh, we'll just keep putting down the deposit, buying more beer, not returning it. No, because we had no money and had no furniture. But we were going to buy beer regardless. It doesn't matter. When there's a will, there's a way, right? Yeah. I have this thing I saw today. I'm curious about this. It's a list I have of with people going back to school, as I mentioned. It's which classes do you wish you paid more attention to in high school? Have you ever thought about that? Like, oh, my history was really poor. Maybe it was because of the school, or maybe it's because you just weren't giving a shit.
I don't think kids care about history.
Yeah, I didn't at the time.
Yeah, I didn't either. And now I wish I had done that. I wish I had looked more into mythology. I mean, that's also, I think, a deficient part of my education.
Mythology.
It's I mean, it's really fascinating when you read these stories that the Greeks and Romans believed.
Yeah. Nobody taught that in school, really. It was
I'm sure there was a mythology class. There had to be a mythology class in high school.
Yeah, was there? I suppose.
I actually took the I took the even though I could have been in the advanced placement classes. I took the classes for the disadvantage.
What?
They had the more fun classes. They had it's where for me it was Western literature was something I could study in high school, but they had for the special needs, I guess. It wasn't really special needs. I mean, that was a completely separate class, but it was like one above that.
Okay.
Like the vocational students. They got filmmaking.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I know. Why would I take English literature when I can make a movie and play with cameras?
Yeah.
I mean, there's and then there was like Civil War classes for history, but the vocational students got to take weather. I know. That one I dropped out. That one I actually dropped out because it was an awful teacher, and all she did was show movies, and they were movies that just somehow tied into weather.
Okay.
They wasn't really, I thought I was going to learn about high pressure cells and low pressure cells and cold fronts and warm fronts, and I wanted to learn all that. But that's not what that's not what she taught.
Yeah, I was at one of my other jobs. I was over at a construction site the other day, and these guys were working along next to us, and they were trying to cut some sort of ceiling panels to fit in, and they started talking about freaking hypotenuse and shit like that. I was like, what? If these guys, they're like these construction guys were bragging about how much math they remembered. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about the opposite of the stereotype of.
Well, and you don't want construction guys knowing math, do you? Oh, that's just gonna ruin. No, I'm sorry. I'm a union guy. You got to bring in the certified math guy. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah, right. right. So this thing that I based this on, it's a list of some subjects people were asked about it. They paid more attention or not. Math, of course, was number one, and that hits close to home for me. My dad was a math teacher, so I
avoided math just to irritate him.
I'll tell you what. People would say, what's it like having your dad as a teacher? Because when I was in 10th grade, he became a full-time teacher at the school I was attending.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
No, of course not.
No. But when I had trouble with math homework, of course, like, oh, it must be great. Justin, it must be great for him. He can go home and ask his dad who can help him, probably does his homework for him. No. I would ask my dad, hey, how do you do this one? And he would go, well, how do you think you do it? Forget I asked. How about a foreign language, Tim? Did you learn a foreign language ever?
Yo hablo español.
Okay, so you're very clearly fluent.
No, I am not fluent. You know what's funny about it is all my Spanish teachers were white Americans. So the Spanish I was taught has a thick American accent. And if it's actually somebody who it's their native language, I can't understand them because of the accent.
Sure.
But if it's an American speaking Spanish, I can follow the whole conversation. It's the weirdest thing. It's how much more chauvinistic can you get than that?
No kidding.
It's like excuse me, could you get your accent a little bit better, Jose?
Could you white it up a little, please? Could you English up that thing? I'm really having a hard time.
Yeah, I realized that on
following.
my honeymoon in Costa Rica is that I was having a hard time. I thought I'd be better, getting with the language than I was. And then we stayed with a Canadian woman. She had a few rooms to let, and when she was telling the locals to get off her property, I understood every single word. Like, how come I can understand her? And it's like, oh, it's because of the Canadian accent.
Yeah.
It's very close to American.
Clearly. I made the mistake of taking when what would it have been, like 6th or 7th grade at the end of the year, when they're telling you, okay, you're gonna be able to take these language classes, and the school you're gonna go to is a really strong French program. I fell for that and took French. Where the fuck does that? I mean, of course, I don't remember any of it. But even if I did, where does French come in handy in 2018 in the United States?
No.
Where? Nowhere.
No.
Nowhere.
No, if you went back to the 18th century, it would be valuable because it was the two languages that were spoke around the world were French and then Latin.
Yeah.
Because of the Catholic Church, you could. That's why that was big in the Catholic Church, was so that priests could communicate everywhere.
Sure, that makes sense. Sign language is one I wish, in hindsight, I wish that would have been available. That would come in more handy now. Sign language, I think.
I only know a few words.
Yeah, I think we all know those. You didn't learn that in school.
Isn't that funny that that's the first words of every language you learn?
Well, what does that say about humans? What does that say? I'm just going to skip to the last one here because I don't understand this. There's 8 of them. It was math, foreign language, science, history, English, social studies, music. 9% of people surveyed wish they paid attention more in music. But here's the last one: physical fitness. What? Not sure what that means. What were people missing? They didn't pay attention more in physical fitness.
They probably didn't keep up with it. That's probably.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
They
didn't catch the bug, and now they regret it. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, perhaps. I hated gym class. I can't. I have no athletic ability whatsoever.
Okay.
It's none. Not even. I can't even fake that I have a little bit of athletic.
How
ability.
tall are you?
It's horrible. 6'1".
Yeah, you must. And you were 6'1", like in high school.
And every
Thanksgiving,
every Thanksgiving, yeah, you should be in basketball. It's like, you haven't seen me with a basketball.
Right.
It's I couldn't do baseball because I have I have a disability known as upper limb projectile androgyny.
What?
Yes, for those of you who probably grew up mocking my disability, you probably called it throwing like a girl. And it's truly a disability. And the funny thing is, you could make fun of it. It's okay to make fun of it.
Yeah.
If I was Down syndrome, you wouldn't be able to make fun of me. But the fact that I was born with upper limb projectile androgyny, it was in fact, the Down syndrome kid would actually make fun of me for it. Throws like a girl.
Oh, that's classic. You never outgrew that one, huh?
I don't know. Probably Probably not. I don't throw anything anymore.
No. How about a frisbee?
What?
Did you get it? Can you throw a frisbee?
I wasn't so bad at frisbee. It's because that was something you would always do out in the park when you were smoking stuff. So no one really cared. That was never really a sport. It was just something to do.
That's a great connection you made right there. I don't disagree. Also, that just made me think of what do they call it? SEPA when I was in college, or hacky sack. That was the one. I never got good at that, but that was the one that was done when we were all hanging out smoking in a park.
I remember watching the Hacky Sackers, and it looked so stupid. It looked so stupid.
Haven't tried in 15, 20 years.
Were you good at the Hacky Sack?
No, all my friends were way better. Way better. I that was introduced to my life like in college, and a lot of my friends I ended up with there were also soccer players, so they had the master skill of a hand-foot coordination, and I had none of that.
Right.
No, I was a swimmer, so nothing crosses over with swimming as far as that goes. Not at all. Not at all. You're doing. I want to talk about, of course, your Rule of Three podcast. Because I enjoy it. I listen to it, and you're doing this Just Kill Me podcast. Yes, no. What is that?
Yes, no. Did you listen to it or
no?
Did you hear what it is? Yeah.
I saw your name attached to it.
Yeah. That's like the fourth iteration of something I did. I used to do something on WLS in Chicago. It was called Jerry's Kidders. It was Jerry Agar was the host, and then there were two other comics, Dobie Maxwell and Ken Severa, and I. And we would come in every Monday morning for the last half hour of his show, and he would read news stories, and then we would go around and we would each make jokes on the news stories. And it did really well until Jerry got fired by the station.
Oh.
And then he went over to WGN, but he was no longer like one of the regular the weekly hosts. He was a weekend host.
Sure.
So it kind of went into a little bit of obscurity, but we still did it. We still came in and did it with him for a while. And then Jerry got a gig in Toronto and went off to Toronto and left the Kidders hanging.
Oh, okay.
And there was a fourth Kidder by the name of Dale Irvin. And he would come in from time to time to do it with us, and he said, what we should do, we should get the band back together, and we should try to do a YouTube video cast of the Kidders.
Okay.
And so it was the four of us. He filled in for Jerry Agar, and we did it. Lasted one show.
Oh. What?
And one of the comics could not figure out how to get it to work, how to get the internet, the video thing on the internet to work for him.
Okay.
And we made fun of him through the whole thing. It was because it was so funny. He goes, "Here's a news story. This comes to us from Cleveland, Ohio. A man." I can't see anything on the screen.
Oh, no.
is what we were hearing.
No.
So it was hilarious. So we made fun of him, and he went back and listened to it and said, "I don't want to be the foil."
Okay.
So he dropped out, and then we brought in a woman that did it with us for a while, and then the other comic dropped out, and then she dropped out. So then it was just Dale and myself, and then we brought in we tried it for a while, and it did not work.
Oh.
It was called the Kidders at this time. So we brought in someone else who was a radio host on WLS, Terry O'Brien, and the three of us did that for about a year, I think, as the Kidders, and then we decided that it wasn't going anywhere. So we kind of reorganized it to Just Kill Me. And the idea was stories about people with jobs worse than yours.
Okay.
And we did that for about a year, and we think that's over. We're actually working on a new one right now.
Oh, okay.
It's probably sometime after Labor Day we'll be debuting it. It's called Another Day Above Ground.
Oh, all right.
So that's the long, boring story about.
It leads to where you're going, though. That's good. Last week, Chris Gethard was here, and I was talking to him. He hosts a podcast called Beautiful Anonymous, and I said to him, I'm like, what would be great is if you could do follow-ups. People must really want to hear follow-ups to these guests. And that led to him going, well, actually, I just signed a thing with a company that we're going to start doing that. So now 2 weeks in a row, I've kind of stumbled into the next projects for my guests. So, yeah.
follow-ups? Meaning he does interviews and then
He does a podcast where he never gets the guest's name. He puts out a phone number to reach him. People call him and just they just tell their story, and they come from all walks of life. There was one recently where a woman calls in that is 3 days. She was 3 days away from turning herself into federal prison for some drug charges she was convicted of, and tells her whole story in an hour of how she started doing drugs, selling drugs.
Wow.
Guys go on there and talking about when they came out of the closet and all that. It's everything, anything you could think of. These people, really things you can't think of, because it's just people's real stories.
Right.
But follow-ups is so it lends itself to well, what happened after that? So found out that that's actually happening. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is coming out of nowhere, but I just glanced down at my notes here. That history of comedy on CNN. Are you watching that at all? Have you seen any of those?
No.
What if it was on a different network? Let's say it was on.
No, I have. It has
YouTube.
Nothing to do. It has nothing to do with network bias. I just, I don't. I don't revel in comedy that much. I try to stay out of it. Does that make any sense? I try not to watch a lot of comedy or pay a lot of attention to comedy. Mm-hmm. It just. I've always felt that I was forging my own path, mm-hmm. and I've always been concerned that if I pay too much attention to other comics or and stuff like that I'll start becoming more that the uniqueness of my style I'll start imitating people.
Okay,
and so I don't.
I could see that. You're not the only one that doesn't really, watch a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, and it's and my biggest fear is that I'm going to hear a joke and I'm going to forget that I heard a joke, and then I'm going to write that joke.
Yeah,
and that's the only way to avoid that is to not watch comedy.
Sure. No, I can get that, and you're definitely not. You're definitely not the only one. Well, I have started watching the history of comedy on CNN, and I like it. It's way better than I thought it was going to be.
Huh. Where's it start? Does it start with Mark Twain?
Well, here's the other thing. I skipped all of season 1, so now I've been watching season 2, and I'm going to go back to those. But I've watched ones that are on comedy teams. Uh-huh. So they're doing, like Abbott and Costello and stuff like that, all the way to, present day, like the Sklar brothers, and everything in between.
Not a lot of comedy teams nowadays.
No, and they talk about that.
And one easy reason is that the club doesn't want to pay double.
Right?
That's basically what it is.
Yeah. Well, you've got to be right on that one. Did you know that? Well, here's something I learned from watching that. The famous Abbott and Costello, the Who's on First. You know that they didn't. That's not technically their bit. That was done by many other acts at the same time, but they became famous with it, and then their contemporaries hated them for it because all these other guys were doing that same joke and not getting any attention, not getting rich off it, but they did.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder who wrote it, huh?
It didn't say. It was just kind
Probably
of
no idea who wrote it.
It was out there and everybody had it, is what it sounded like.
Yeah. No, it's It's I always kind of thought that it was a vaudeville routine.
Okay.
That it was something that that had gone on and on for for years.
Another one of the comedy teams that they focused on was what's his name? Lewis, Jerry Lewis and Dean
Lewis and
Martin. Yeah. Have you ever been into their stuff? Have you ever gone back and watched it?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Big time.
Sell me on it.
Yeah. I don't know that I still enjoy it.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, Martin and Lewis, to me, it was just amazing. I think every kid, Jerry Lewis touches something in every pre-adolescent boy that they just find hilarious.
Okay.
And it's it's the same. I think it's the same kind of thing with Adam Sandler. Is just that really goofy, dumb character is just hilarious to a pre-adolescent boy.
Yeah.
And because I think what it does is and I've never really thought about this until just this moment, but what it does is it speaks to the pre-adolescent boy is just starting to come into his own, and he feels clumsy and foolish in the world around him, and I think what it is that those characters speak to that person, is that's how their inner self really feels out in the world.
Okay.
And it's maybe. And then, Dean Martin, he's Dean Martin. He's, there's no one, I don't think there's anyone cooler than Dean Martin.
Yeah.
And so it's such a great juxtaposition of this, this amazingly
goofball.
Yeah, this goofball and this amazingly cool loser whose only friend is the goofball. So it's it's I'm a big Martin Lewis fan. I don't think I've watched them. I think I've seen them all, and I haven't gone back and revisited them.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't. Jerry Lewis to me was just that guy that hosted the telethons that ruined the Saturday morning cartoons once a year. Like, where the fuck? What? What is this? It's still on? This was on last night? Now this morning? What? We only have 4 channels, and this is on one of them full time.
Yeah, I think the concept of a telethon really has no meaning in the streaming era.
Oh God, no. Yeah, right.
It's even me. This is weird. Is that I'm flipping through the stations trying to find something to watch, and I'm on Sling, and they have Now Playing. Mm-hmm. And what was really weird for me was to actually think that you would actually tune in to television as it's being broadcast somewhere. I'm so used to DVRs and on demand that the concept of actually watching TV as it occurs, as it goes out over the airwaves, was just foreign to me. And it's like, wow, is that? Because that's what I grew up with. It's
right.
When Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was on, you had to be home in front of the TV.
You better be home by 7,
or you had to wait another year to see that.
Right.
And that concept, even to me, is so a telethon. You know what? Oh, he's on TV for 24 hours. Yeah, big deal.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll see the highlights on Facebook tomorrow.
Yeah, and the thing is like, oh God, he's taking more money from 7-Eleven. Can I fast forward through this? No, I can't.
My wife and I just got caught in that because same deal. We never watch besides sports when I'm watching like a Vikings game or something on TV. I don't. It's rare that it's in live.
Even then, do you DVR it so you can?
I do a lot.
Sit down a half hour late and go through a lot of the commercials.
Mm-hmm. Usually. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. But we got caught in that the other day. There's I think I've admitted this on the show before. This is embarrassing. But there's the worst show on television that my wife and I watch religiously, Teen Mom on MTV. I'm not proud of it at all. I met my wife. She had been watching it. She sucked me in. And now I can't get away from Teen Mom and every variation of Teen Mom on MTV. I'm not going to defend it. It's not good. But I watch it.
Oh, no, I understand.
On Monday, this past Monday, like I said, normally we don't watch it live. We never do, in fact. Usually like the next night or even a week later. This week we were home, and it was like, the show's on at 8. I had to look that up, so I was on at 8, like it's 7:50. I'm like, hey, let's turn on Teen Mom. So we put it on, and of all things, this is something that it would have been on my radar, and I would have been looking forward to it 20 years ago. The MTV Video Music Awards were on that night, so Teen Mom wasn't on.
Huh.
Yeah. And there was a time in my life where that would have been the biggest event of the
Video Music Awards.
Yes, and we put it. So I put MTV on. We had it on for like 7 minutes. I'm like, I can't
on a station that neither runs videos nor music.
Well, yeah. Then there's that. Yeah.
I mean, it's like retro.
Yeah.
It's
But I feel good about the fact that we lost interest so fast. But the next morning, there was all these stories about how the show lacked star power. The Music MTV Awards show lacked star power this year. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm not the only one who didn't recognize any of these names. They're like, and coming up on the show, blee, blur, blee. Like, I don't know.
No, I understand Teen Mom. I was into Honey Boo Boo.
Oh, Okay, well then, yeah.
I loved Honey Boo Boo.
Nope. And I never watched that.
What that actually made me think, because you hear the big joke about why we haven't been visited by extraterrestrials. They say, well, they came here looking for intelligent life and couldn't find any. Right. It's like, does that really matter? Mm-mm. It seems to me, unintelligent life is far more fascinating.
Yeah. Uh-huh. No doubt.
It's my guess is if extraterrestrials, they would all have geosynchronous orbits over the planet monitoring everything that's going on and dying laughing at it.
Yeah, right?
My favorite episode of Honey Boo Boo was when they sat down and played Guess Whose Breath.
Oh, no.
And basically the person that was it had to put on a blindfold. And then they would pick one person, and they would have to breathe in the face of the person with the blindfold, and you had to guess who it was.
That's disgusting, and I totally want to trick my kids into that game this weekend. I'm doing that to my kids this weekend. There's no doubt. And just to be clear, they're putting the blindfold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're doing that one. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Let's talk now about the podcast you're doing that's going... I saw I know because I listened. You're back from your summer hiatus.
Yeah,
Rule of 3.
Yeah, that wasn't really intentional. I just got really lazy.
Okay.
So there was a couple weeks. We actually recorded episodes, and I didn't even edit them and put them up. I'm so ashamed.
What?
So it's it's going to work out. It's going to work out because Bent is having a hard time getting to. He's been on a cruise since the last week of June.
Working cruise ships.
Yeah,
Yep.
one cruise ship back and forth from Boston to Nova Scotia and back.
Yeah,
with a bunch of stops along the way. So that's what he's been doing all summer long. So it's been we can only do it when he's in port.
Okay.
So it's been difficult. It's been difficult to get our schedules, but I do have a couple episodes that I'll be sticking up. So.
Oh, okay.
Very shortly.
Have you and Bent been in the same room together since he started his role on the show?
No, the only time that Bent and I have been in the room together to do a show is ironically he was at my place and he did when Brian and I were doing the show. Uh-huh. He was our special guest that week.
Yeah,
and the two of us were in the room together for that. But no, it's done from wherever he is and wherever I am. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah. Oh, we should, since this is Acme's podcast and we're here at Acme, I heard him mention on your show that he's going to be recording here.
Yeah, he's got
soon.
a CD coming up in October. It's Bent. I can't remember which one he said it's going to be. Bent Over, or no? I think he did Bent Over in Europe.
Bent in half. Bent
in half.
Something.
Maybe.
Like
yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. He's going to run out of bent puns. I hope he's got a long list, because the rate he puts out CDs is going to run out of bent puns.
No kidding, right? He's great. You guys are really good together, and I like that you don't agree on everything. That there's some dissenting opinions sometimes.
Yeah,
That's
not too much. We're pretty much on the same level, but we look at the issues differently.
Okay, yeah.
It's not like it's not completely divisive.
No. Yeah, I don't want to.
Where it's right versus left.
No,
it's we tend to agree on stuff, but we look at it from different perspectives.
That's, of course, you had a better way to put it than I did. Yeah, it's not exactly point and counterpoint. Right. It's not exactly.
Right. So it's so it doesn't get too political, but it's a little political.
Sure. Speaking of that, I was here last night. I don't know if you knew that. I snuck in the show about...
I did not.
Yeah, I was here. Snuck in while Steve Gillespie was up on stage and left as soon as it was over. But I was here, and I heard... But it was you at one point kind of teased a little political stuff, and then you went into it a little bit.
Yeah, I teased just a little.
Yeah.
Just a little.
So is that
It's
normal? How are you looking at that stuff now?
It's so divisive right now. His politics have never been more divisive than it is right here and now.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really difficult to find that to split that hair that you're not going to upset half the audience.
Right.
And it's
And it really is half.
Yeah, it absolutely is half.
Yeah.
I think both sides think that they have a majority in some respect, but they don't. I mean, it's pretty much 50-50, and it's and 50% is loud about it, and 50% keeps it to themselves.
Right.
Is what it seems like.
Yeah.
So I kind of exploited that a little last night.
Do you miss doing more political stuff?
It was kind of my trademark for how long? I mean, it's been a difficult transition to get away from, and the trouble is if you make fun of the left right now, they get really upset, and if you make fun of the president, it's hack.
Yeah.
There's just so many people making fun of the president. I mean, there's no angle I can find that hasn't been touched by a dozen other comics.
Yeah.
So it's kind of liberating in some respect, but it's also there's a little bit of nostalgia that I would.
I was telling a friend of mine asked me the other day, said, who are you going to talk to on the podcast this week? And I said, it's Tim Slagle. Oh, Slagle. I saw him perform at the Libertarian convention?
Uh-huh.
Is that what you performed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I used to do libertarian events all the time.
Yeah. He went to one in Washington, maybe?
Washington, D.C.?
In the 90s?
Yeah.
Is that what you would have? That's right? You would have been there performing?
Yeah, Johnny Rotten was there that year. He was hanging out at the convention. It was kind of interesting.
From the
Sex Pistols.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he was flirting with the party. I think he's still there. I think he's actually still there, but I don't think he's active with the party.
Okay.
But I think he realizes that's where a lot of the guys. It's really funny. It's I'm not the only punk rocker that finds himself in the Libertarian Party. It's like all the time I'll meet these clean-cut attorneys, clean-cut suit and tied attorneys, and they go, "Oh yeah, I was so into the punk scene."
Yeah,
and I mean, it really punk rock kind of does lead, I think, libertarianism.
Okay. Yeah, my buddy's like, yeah, he had dreadlocks. I go, oh, I know. I didn't know him then, but I've seen the pictures. I know.
It's that's another thing I look at it's are there jokes that you people say, are there jokes that you used to be able to do that you can't do today? Oh yeah. And I go, in fact, I had a hairstyle that I couldn't have today.
Right.
That I would be called a cultural appropriator nowadays.
Mm-hmm. I give you credit for ever pulling that off. That to have hair that I mean, I the first time you see someone with dreadlocks, you're like, you want to touch it, and then you just have so many questions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's an interesting thing, because that was a stage of my career where and it wasn't just. Well, actually, I got a couple funny stories about it. I think is. I had the dreadlocks, and I was doing it wasn't a wig, it wasn't that's how I looked on stage or off stage. Is off stage I'd walk around in a leather jacket with dreadlocks, and people were afraid of me. And I eventually, it was shortly before my 40th birthday, I cut them off.
Okay.
I said, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be Steven Tyler, still pretending that he was a young rock, still pretending he's a young rocker when he's a senior citizen.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy, so I got rid of him. And it was funny. It was I'm getting on a flight. And I had to go to a gig, and I had just cut him off. I had just it's like I did a gig in Chicago at Zany's, and then on Sunday night, after the show, I came home and had a buddy of mine that was a hairdresser cut them all off and give me a regular haircut. And then I had to fly out Tuesday morning. And so I'm getting on the plane, and the sky cap is going, Tim Slagle. I go, yeah. He goes, hey, my wife and I saw you last week at Zany's. And I go, really? He goes, yeah. And he grabs my luggage and turns around. He goes, I told her it was a wig.
Oh, no! Oh, that's great.
So shortly afterwards,
Oh,
I'm in a grocery store with my wife. We went to visit my mom, and we were at the deli counter. And we're like picking up something to eat for dinner, and they had tabbouleh there at the deli counter, and I'm looking at the tabbouleh, and I said, should we get that? And this woman comes up to me, and she goes, that tabbouleh doesn't look too good to me. She goes, the tomatoes look a little turned. And she goes, the only time I eat tabbouleh is when I can do it with fresh tomatoes out of my garden and parsley. I grow my own parsley, and so I chop it up, and then I do the bulgur wheat, and I take the tomatoes, and fresh tomatoes, and I chop them up, and I put them all there, and I mix it. And that's the only way I ever eat it. And she goes, I wouldn't get that. And I looked at my wife and I said, why is this woman talking to me? And she said, oh, because you don't scare the shit out of everyone anymore. I go, oh, I don't think I'm going to like this.
No, I wish it was a wig, right? Oh, that's great. That's really funny. You have never told those stories on this podcast. Those are very funny. Let me look at the timer. I want to bring up something to you that was discussed on your podcast and it really grabbed my attention. It was an episode you've done, one of the last 4. And you were talking about Bent had recently had his thyroid removed?
Yep.
Yes. You talked about that. The word goiter came up, which made me laugh and brought me back to adolescence because that is just a funny word. And we used to tease, like, if somebody had some weird, like, what'd you get, a freaking goiter? Like, we didn't know what the hell that was. I'm still not sure what that is, but it's a funny word. Anyway, for people who haven't heard it on Tim's podcast, Rule of 3, they're talking about that. And then, Tim, you bring up a thing about, you say, do you remember the Shell No Pest strip?
Yeah.
And I'm going, what? I got to know more about this. So I went home and looked it up. Have you done? They're not technically, they've been banned in the United States for a long time.
Huh.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
While I'm looking something up here, you want to tell people what they are exactly?
It's basically some kind of it was some kind of chunk of wax or polyethylene or some kind of composite material, and it was embedded with a pesticide. And it was basically came in a little foil a box that looked very modern and had big vents in it. And you would just hang that in your kitchen or whatever. Yeah. And it would all the mosquitoes and spiders and flies in your kitchen, you wouldn't have any. It just killed them all. And the story I told with Bent is that I remember as a kid is a buddy and I, we were camping out in the backyard and we didn't want to worry about mosquitoes, so he borrowed his mom's no pest strip, right, and hung it up in the tent. Next to the trouble light that we used from the garage to light the tent, so we could play like Monopoly and Scrabble all night.
Yeah.
And I can still remember the smell of that no pest strip because it was so. And we woke up, we had headaches the next day.
Oh, I believe it. They've been banned. First of all, the chemical that was used in those is the same chemical used in tick collars for pets.
Huh.
I don't know if you knew that.
Did not know that.
Yeah. They are no longer available in the United States. However, those exact ones are still available in Mexico.
Huh.
Yeah. They took them out of the market here and sent them to Mexico, and they still sell
But you
them
can
there.
you could still get tick collars though.
You can.
So you could theoretically hang up a tick collar in the tent if you wanted to. If you wanted to repeat Tim Slagle's boyhood experience, you could hang up a tick collar in the tent.
Yeah.
And
they were apparently, before they were taken off the market, they were warning people. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing I saw is there were warning labels saying, don't use these in a nursery, don't put it in the baby's bedroom, don't put it in a kitchen where it's going to be around food. Well, like I said, they've taken these products and shipped them to Mexico. Those are not on the labels there. That warning is gone.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because in Mexico, the baby doesn't have its own room. And
That's it.
and the kitchen is just a stone for grinding maize next to an open hearth. So don't really need those warnings.
I don't. We're not going to get into it. But I did find a quick. I found a list I was going to mention, but we're running out of time here. And it was a list of some products that were one time legal in the United States and then now are banned. It just made me think of stuff like that. And I found here's one: lawn darts. Remember lawn darts with the pointy end?
I have a set.
Do you?
I've got a story about my lawn darts.
Well, those have some value now because they haven't made those in a long time.
Because they're new.
Oh.
I have they're only a couple years old. I have a new set of lawn darts.
I read somewhere that now you can buy the tips separately and the other part separately to make your own.
You could for a while.
Okay, so what is it now?
You could for a while. You could buy parts for your lawn darts. So you could buy the fins and the tips.
Fins, yes.
There's a couple manufacturers, I think, or I don't know if they're manufactured in the UK or they might be, or if they're manufactured elsewhere and shipped to the UK. But you could order them from the UK and have them shipped to the US if they were unassembled.
Oh, unassembled. Okay.
Unassembled, yeah, just the parts. And so people were doing that for a while, and I don't know who it is, the band. I don't know. We don't have a Department of Toys, so I don't know which government department banned them.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But they found out people were doing that, and they got really strict. So I contacted the guy in the UK where you could still get them, and I contacted him. And he said, "What's the deal?" And he said, "I can't." He goes, "I can't ship to the US," and he said, "I can't." I can't. They've canceled my PayPal. They canceled my Visa. He goes, I can ship to the U.S., but I can't accept payment from the U.S.
Oh,
that's how they were able to do it.
Okay.
So he said, if you can figure out a way of getting a guy to pay me from the U.K., he goes, I'll send them to you. And yeah. So, because I really wanted a set.
Okay.
And so I have a friend, Dave Fulton. A friend of the club.
Oh, of course.
He lives in the UK now, so I contacted him, and I said, can you send a check to this guy for me? And he said, absolutely. So I PayPal Dave Fulton. I probably shouldn't be saying this because now we actually might get in trouble. But I PayPal Dave Fulton the money, and then he wrote a check and sent it to the guy, and then he sent me my lawn darts. So I got it. So I got a brand new lawn dart set. But here's the thing: they're not pointy.
What?
Yeah, they're blunt.
Oh.
And it's. And I noticed they were not sticking in the ground like they did. I said, do I just not remember it that they weren't pointy? But I guess even in the UK they said, we can't put points on the ends, so they have blunt ends.
Okay.
And they say if you're having a hard time getting them to stick, you water the lawn first before you play. And yeah, exactly. I say I'm not going to do that. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's play a game of jars. I'll water the lawn. You get the set, and
Yeah, no kidding.
Benny,
No.
you mix the cocktails.
Exactly.
It's like no.
No.
So fortunately, I had a buddy that has a metal shop. Speed Cult. It's the name of the metal shop.
Get out of No, you didn't.
I did.
You had them made?
What? I didn't have them made. I just
had 'em
sharpened. So I got some real nice points put on those things.
Unbelievable.
So
wow, who knew that story would come out? No shit. When I was probably 13, 14 years old, I was at a friend's family's cabin, and they had the old set. That had probably been in the cabin's garage for two generations, and we bust that out and started playing. And my buddy's sister was playing with us, and the game ended because she got it right in the foot.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It stuck.
Stigmata.
It stuck right in the top of her foot. Game ended. She got straight to the ER. Oh yeah.
Definitely straight to the ER because that's been sticking in dirt. I mean, that's
yeah. She came back a few hours later with some fresh stitches, and we didn't get tetanus shot, and we didn't get to play that game anymore.
Oh man. When was this?
Oh, when I was 12, 13 years old.
Oh, okay.
So it's long gone now. Yeah.
Okay. Were those banned before you were a kid?
I'm trying to remember
because if you're 12 or 13 and there's a set in the garage, that's probably.
I think they were. They were grandfathered in.
Yeah, no, we used to be able to get them at Kmart. It was a big fad for a while.
Yeah, and then at some point, my family had a set, and it was they were just like rounded pieces of plastic that you could throw it. There was no sticking. It would literally you thought you'd get it in the hole or the ring, and it would bounce out.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, this is stupid. Playing this anymore. Is there anything else we should be mentioning? Are you? After the shows, you selling anything? You glad handing after the shows?
No, not selling anything.
No,
it's just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
Yep.
Right on. Do you have? Let's mention Crash and Burn briefly.
Oh,
here.
okay. It's just started contacting people.
Okay.
So I have not put together the show. I think it's there's little interest. I think it's gonna be a good one. We'll probably do it again first week of April. Don't know for sure. Have no firm date. But it's definitely Crash and Burn 8 has been greenlit. So
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
All right. Thank you, Tim.